While I'm still working on other projects, I wanted to make a quick video about a somewhat niche fever concept I'll call fever cutting. As the name implies, fever cutting is where you intentionally lower the number of fever activations in order to improve the overall scoring route of the song. Right now, you're watching the Auto Fever All Perfect playthrough of 2Hua 4-star. To help follow along, I have 3 counters on screen. One for the number of fever activations, one for the bonus points made from the current fever activation, and one for the total bonus points from all fever activations. As it plays, look for places where the fever seems weak, and once it's finished, we'll go over a handful of spots that have some flaws and how to improve them. So what sticks out about this Auto Fever route? At first glance, it seems decent. The first and third activations were pretty dense for notes, and that should forgive the second activation for being mostly empty, right? Well, let's start from the beginning. The first activation starts here, and it ends up being mostly comprised of small notes. Since we're also using Sailor Buro, the combo multiplier still has room to grow. While neither of these are bad points on their own, they're both things to keep in mind. Next, for the second activation, we only get 3 notes total. This is a glaring flaw, so it will be the first thing we want to fix. Before we do that, let's look at the final fever first. The final activation seems to be solid, but there's a short bit at the end that is wasted. Let's keep that in mind as well while we plan our route. There's 2 hurdles we first have to address before we can continue. Auto Fever uses fever as quickly as possible, so there's no way we can activate any earlier in manual. Also, any later activations will only make the third fever worse, so we want to avoid that if we can. With these restrictions in place, it seems there simply isn't an improvement. That's where fever cutting comes in. If we simply remove one of the activations entirely, we give ourselves much more freedom in creating the route. So, let's do that. Out of all the activations, the weakest by far is the second. Let's remove it from the picture and focus on only using 2 fever activations instead. Doing this does 2 things for us. Firstly, because we have an entire extra meter to play with, we can fill out our now second fever with more notes. Secondly, we can now move the first fever to a better spot without compromising the second fever. With that done, let's plan our route. The easiest fix is our final fever. If we have more fever to build and work with, we can easily optimize the last activation to simply not be wasted after the song is over. With that in mind, we will activate on this note. Now, where can we activate our first fever? Starting from after the point we fill the first bar, let's look for points after we eliminate the weaknesses we found earlier, small notes and not using Joker's full bonus. We also want to not activate too late so we don't mess up the final activation. This section of medium notes looks about right, and it's early enough that we'll still have plenty of meter to build before the second activation. We will activate on this note. Let's put this into practice and see what we get.
Music. Ready? Go!
So, as it turns out, by cutting out an activation, we were able to improve our first fever mode by 735 points, and maintain the points gained from the second and third auto fever activations by keeping the same number of points within one manual activation. With that, we are able to achieve the current max score for this chart. And so you have it, the concept of fever cutting. This ended up being longer than I anticipated, and also somewhat of a tutorial on routing, but please let me know if you guys found this helpful. If so, I'll try to make more tutorials like this, explaining concepts more in depth. As always, thank you for watching, and good luck with your high scores.